Let's jump into that thing you talked about with stress,
Hmm.
because we described it specifically for doctors. But I would argue that the rat race most people in the world are involved in. They're struggling paycheck to paycheck to make bills. Health insurance is very expensive for people. People are drowning in credit card debt. Most people cannot afford to purchase a home. I think the average age of home buying now is over 40, which is the highest it's ever been. And the reason why I say this is now with financial pressure, people are simply trying to pay their bills and make it to their pillow at night. That then leads to, I'm so stressed trying to make this happen that I'm going to play with altered states of consciousness. I want to drink, I want to use marijuana, I want escapism to manage this stress. And I'm just trying to make it to the weekend. That seems to be the narrative that I see pretty consistently based on my observation. Well, then the trickle down of that is, like you mentioned, it's fertility issues.
Hmm.
And then you see things like IVF, more money going to the medical industry to try to have babies, to try
Yeah.
to increase the population. What are your thoughts on some of this, and what are best practices to escape living within that rat race and within that spinning wheel?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a complicated topic, right? But you hit the nail on the head on how that trickle down effect happens. So, stress is probably the leading driver of a lot of our health and fertility issues. And of course, because stress and cortisol has a direct negative effect on our health, but also because of those indirect or secondary effects of stress leading you to maybe behaviors to relieve some of that stress, even temporarily, like drinking or smoking or poor eating habits. You're so stressed that your willpower gets out the window and you just want to order, three different entrees at a fast food restaurant. So all of these secondary behaviors and effects, plus that direct effect of the stress that have these negative consequences on your overall health. And of course, your fertility and your hormone health. And then, so the reality of all of that is something that likely will take some time to address. You can't flip a switch and alleviate the stress, reverse all of those behaviors. And, that's again part of what I'm passionate about in fertility is that it should be a proactive discussion. You don't need to be already trying or struggling to conceive to really be focusing on your fertility, because oftentimes, even if you do identify something that's suboptimal, it may take 3 to 6 months to really make a huge impact on improving whatever that issue is, to have the trickle down effect to your fertility and your overall health. Because the trap people get into often, again, with this issue of fertility being a something that is reactive when there is a problem, or once you've been trying for a year, is you talk about stress, right? For many people, having a child or having children is a life goal or the ultimate life goal. It's something that they absolutely don't want to picture their life without. So now you've got stress in your normal life. You decide you want to try to have a child and it's not going well. I mean, now talk about the stress of that and how that compounds and confounds the issue. But if you've not had any evaluation into your fertility, if you've not had anybody look into it for you, order blood work, talk to you about your lifestyle, your stress, try to be working on that. Now, by the time you get a referral to a fertility specialist, you're a year into trying. If you identify an issue, let's say now it's going to take 6 months to correct the issue, and then it could take another 3 to 6 months to get pregnant off of that. For most people, they're so exhausted by that process, so stressed, that they just want to move to IVF. They just want to, like, whatever the quick answer is to get a baby. And maybe they wouldn't have needed that. And this isn't the case for everybody, but had they been working, a year prior on, hey, how do I better understand my body? How do I key into what some issues may be? How do I work on these factors that I know are probably negatively affecting my fertility? And save yourself all that time on the front end. Because once that snowball of stress and pressure and time that feels like it's wasted or not working starts to occur, it's really hard to get somebody in that position to reduce their stress level.
Yeah, it's well said. What's coming to mind for me is it's so much mindset. And the reason why I say that is just the cognition around I'll be happy or I'll be ready when. And I think what I'm seeing is young people are thinking, hey, I don't really know how to run a business when I'm young. Obviously, you have exceptions to those rules. So they think, okay, I'm going to follow the traditional narrative. I'm going to go to college. Now you're paying all this money to receive an education, a piece of paper that says I'm valid in the world. I can do these things and I have credentials and credibility in the education. Well, now you're buried, like I said, underneath student loans. So then as a byproduct, you're thinking, okay, I need to just meet my partner first. We have modern day swipe culture. There's Bumble, there's Hinge, there's Match.com, there's Tinder, all the things. So now dating culture has become, hey, let's go meet that person at the bar. Let's grab a drink. Now dating culture seamlessly integrates with vices. I think it's changing a little bit where now there's all these run clubs and there's outdoorsy adventures. There are ways to do it better, in my opinion. But the point that I'm making there is it's the concept of, okay, I've got financial stress caused by enrolling in the system. Now I can't find a partner because community is kind of dwindling due to these computer boxes that live in our pocket. We sort of have connection. We see what everybody's doing on their story, but we don't have real connection. Now I'm trying to find my partner. Takes me a while to get there. I'm exhausted from dating culture. Okay, I found my partner. Now we both are thinking, oh, like we're going to do the marriage thing and we're going to have dual income and we're going to figure it out. But the world is so expensive. Now there's a duality of trying to both of you figure out your finances. You're like, oh yeah, we're going to have kids when we're financially ready. You're never really financially ready modern day. And then that stress trickles into the vices that I described before. Now you're having a hard time having kids. It creates tension between partners. There's the blame game. Oh, you should have done this. You should have done that. Well, both parties were trying to do the next right thing, pay off their debt so they could get to the point where they felt safe and financially stable to pursue bringing another human into the world. And you can see how it becomes, going back to my mindset comment, I'll be happy when, I'll be ready when. Mm-hmm. And then when you complete one thing, a new stress takes its place. So it becomes this cyclical bit that people just seemingly just keep getting confronted with problems. And these things didn't exist before.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, in some ways you can apply what I said earlier on, the 80% answer that's sustainable is better than the 100% answer, or the 80% answer that allows you to move forward with your life goals is maybe better than the 100% answer that maybe puts those in jeopardy by waiting too long.
I like that you said long, because now it becomes a comparison of short-term versus long-term mm-hmm. gratification. And like you said, if you start these habits early on, they will eventually pay off.
Absolutely. And especially in a world where more and more people are trying to have kids later because they were trying to pay off debt or they didn't meet their partner or whatever the reasons are, more and more people just trying to start having families, at an older age or into their late 30s as opposed to ever before. That's where this becomes all the more important, right? Because so many of these things, not only does it take a while to maybe correct bad behavior or improve your health when you're talking about things like stress and bad habits or poor diet or just the whole picture, it may take time, but there's also this, longitudinal effect of the longer you were living in those bad habits, potentially the more negative the effect may be. And when you think specifically too for women on egg quality, right? We know that egg quality is going to decline as you age. There's no way around that. Somebody who's 40, their eggs are not as high quality as somebody who's 25, or a higher percentage of their eggs are going to be genetically abnormal or of lower quality. But, so you're going to have your individual based on your age and just your genetic makeup, what that looks like. But then, so you can't control that. But what you can control is everything else, right? How do you care for your body? So even if you say, okay, you know what? I don't have my person. I'm thinking I might be 10 years away from trying to have a family. And it doesn't mean you need to, again, add this huge stressor of perfectionism in this period of time to be stressed about your future fertility. But there's this, again, 80% answer of, well, how do you just care for yourself and your future fertility? How do you become educated about how you do your best to preserve your future fertility and your egg quality? And you work on gradually improving your habits and your lifestyle. So maybe if you're getting a later start in life, well, at least you're now in a good position from those years of prep work that you did for your body, as opposed to being 38, coming off a really stressful period of life, maybe going out too much, drinking too much fast food, and you're trying to do this 180 on your life with all this pressure of doing it so that you can get pregnant. It may be adding more stress than anything, as opposed to getting to that phase of being ready to conceive and feeling like, cool, all this work that I've been doing is ready to pay off. Like, I understand my body. I'm feeling good. My energy is high. My libido is good. I'm feeling like we're ready to do that.